Afternoon, lads. Welcome to part three of the basics of pushing. So, in this episode, I was going to cover up nukes and down nukes, both for pushing. So, what we have here is an up nuke I made maybe a week and a half ago. So, what that looks like on the wall is this. You can see there's nothing behind it. Pop, 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 and then you've got, I think that's like a 9 wide hole or something. It's obscenely large. And the most interesting thing about it is it's going up the wall like that. So basically, I'll give you a rundown of what's happening here. We're using the same overall pushing setup with the third power, one game tick after the hammer, and then the push TNT, one game tick after the third power. And basically, what happens at the wall is this. So your sand stacks like this, sand stacks, and then your red sand hits, and then your push TNT hits. Now, the main difference between this setup here and the concrete push is you need something to cancel out the velocity of the scatter. So with your push concrete, you could have the concrete in the top, and you'd have your TNT with that. Now, for this one here, of course, we need a vertical separation between our nuke and nukehammer, which means we need our nuke and nukehammer in different blocks. So if we only had one scatter here, what would happen is the scatter would blow up, it would push the push TNT backwards, the nukehammer would it'd swing, but it's like relatively in the same spot, and your nuke actually gets shot down. So in this case here, you get a massive wire separation, and most of the time, because sand has a lower blast resistance than cobblestone, that nuke there won't actually get pushed into the wall. So instead, what we do is we put some nuke hammer in the bottom here, or not nuke hammer, sorry. We put scatter with the nuke hammer, which is this TNT here. They're timed the same as the scatter in the newcomer. So your scatter that appears on the top sand stack and your scatter that appears basically one below it, they're both timed the same. And your push TNT is also timed the same. And basically what the goal is with these two scatters here is to roughly cancel out the velocity of each other. So they still put a hole in the wall and they still push the push TNT backwards. But since they cancel the velocity mostly out between your nuke and nuke hammer here, you'll get a situation like this instead. And of course, there's a hole in the wall. So on the exact same game tick, but rendered after, so that's what the comparator is doing there, your push TNT will explode. And it's far enough away that it just gives the tiniest bit of velocity to your push nuke and your push nuke hammer. And basically what you do then is you time it out so it explodes inside the wall. So in this case, this is your wall here, and that is your push nuke. So instead of the TNT tunneling through the sand, so I mentioned earlier that sand has a lower blast resistance than cobblestone. Instead of tunneling through the sand, it tunnels through the cobblestone, which has a much higher blast resistance, and which will mean the TNT here has a much denser hole, as you can see when I do fire it again. So let's fire that again. And I don't know how carefully you're going to be able to watch this, but yeah, you can see it's timed out very quickly. But you can see the little nudge that pushes. Yeah, you can see it there. This isn't the most efficient ratio, so I've got about 150 nuke hammer, and I think my nuke hole is about 100 blocks. But it's very hard to get quite efficient push nuke ratios. So you can see it there. So I guess I'll talk about some of the advantages and the disadvantages of this. And I'll start with the disadvantages first because they're the most obvious. One, you can only like effectively get one game tick worth of range for your push nuke. That's the first disadvantage. Second disadvantage, of course, you do need a third power. There are setups you can use where you don't need a third power, but they're really, really finicky. So I wouldn't really bother with those. Basically, it's like you fire your push with the second power, but it's going so much slower because of a worse exposure that it reaches the wall after the hammer goes off. And that's only like effective at certain ranges, basically. So this ratio here that I have, it's got about one game tick worth of range. So this is like a forcing ratio. You can delay like your scatter and your push TNT to get more range if you desire. But just for the purpose of this video, I have it all timed very, very tightly. So the advantages of this is, of course, you get a massive hole. I'm using a regen wall here, by the way. That's why this is all regenning back. You're getting a absolutely massive hole, and it's vertical as well. So you can basically breach bases much lower. And if you're push nuking their base wall, if you're push nuking their other walls, it basically frees you up to adjust much higher later. That's the key advantage here. And of course, if you're using a down push nuke as well, that also does an absolutely massive hole. Now, there is one more actually fairly major disadvantage here, and that's you can't nuke normally with this because you're pushing your what is basically everything in your one shot sand and your normal sand because you're pushing everything into the wall. That will push your nuke into the wall as well. So you can't efficient nuke or web bust nuke with this. You can pseudo nuke though, because pseudo nuking is not reliant on the hammer and it's just reliant on the ordering of the cannon. So that's a very viable strategy here as well, just to have a pseudo nuke. Um, I love push nukes. They're just they just cause such a frightening amount of damage to a wall that I'm actually kind of surprised that no one's really used one on complex yet. Of course, you can OSRB with this. You will just need to time your push nuke to hit after your OSRB hammer goes off. And I haven't really done like push nukes and push concretes together in tandem yet. It's quite a bit more annoying, but I'm pretty sure it is possible. So apart from that, that pretty much sums up this video. This ratio here will be public. This will be in the description below. It's not a great ratio, but it's pretty fun to play around with. So in the next one, I haven't actually made an up down yet. Ratio finding for an up down is much harder than just a normal up push nuke. But I can still explain the concept. I know how to do it, and I'll leave that one up for you guys to find ratios for yourselves. I'm sure you're all more than capable of that. And then I'll do like the finale will be push stacking. Where I have done push stacking before. I'll talk about like the two different ways you can push stack and its advantages and disadvantages. So hopefully, if you guys enjoyed the video, actually I won't tell you to like and subscribe because I think that's a bit gay. And it's just fishing for that sort of thing. So I'll skip on that. I won't do that for future videos either, because this is really just a hobby channel in the end. And I did mention it in the channel update, but thank you guys for 250 subs as well. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll catch you all in the next video.